So it turns out more lies that they knew at the time they were lying about COVID. So this is from the BBC COVID inquiry. What is it investigating and how will it work? What is the COVID inquiry investigating? Well, the COVID inquiry launched by Boris Johnson in May 2021 covers decision-making during the pandemic in both Westminster and the devolved administrations. At the time, Mr. Johnson said all aspects of the UK's response would be under the microscope. Really? Well, what issues will the inquiry look at? The decision to delay lockdown at the very start of the pandemic, which some experts say cost thousands of lives. Really? The move to abandon testing in the community in March 2020, and the approach to care homes, where 40% of COVID deaths occurred in the first 3 months, including the lack of testing, PPE shortages, and the acceptance of patients discharged from hospitals when COVID first hit. Remember they did that? They took the sick people, senior citizens out of the hospital, sent them back to the old folks' homes, and they killed everybody. Bombshell, this is from that COVID inquiry. So what actually did they find? 10 Downing Street. That's like the White House, right? 10 Downing Street in the UK knew there was no need for masks or social distancing, and it was unscientific, yet they went ahead with the theater anyway. Why is this not the number one story? So here, I'll show you what it says. It says, this is the evidence. This is submission that number. Okay. During the pandemic, number 10, despite setting the rules for the country, was slow to enforce any rules in their own building. The press office, Wine Time Fridays, continued throughout. Social distancing was not enforced, and mask wearing was also not enforced. I once inquired to this person that's redacted in March of 2020 whether we should be wearing masks, and was told that the science advice was that there was no point to wearing masks and had very little effect on the spread of COVID. Well, that was always the science, and they knew it, but they all lied about masks, like Fauci. Why would they do that? To scare us, because we all know I learned through Dr. Drew, who worked with Fauci during AIDS, his theory of how to control people during a crisis is to scare them and use fear. And so if everybody's walking around with a mask on, that makes everybody afraid and increases the fear level. Because everybody's walking around normal, nobody's going to be scared, but you got to put it. And so that's where this came from. Because there's never been a study that showed masking did anything. And they knew it. They knew it back in March 2020. They knew it. Also, this was all part of a wider culture of not adhering to any rules. Number 10 Downing Street was like an island oasis of normality. Operational notes were sent out from the security team to be mindful of cameras outside the door, not to go out in groups, and to social distance. It was all a pantomime. And of course, they had parties too at number 10 Downing. They all had parties. There were birthday parties, end of the week gatherings, all continued as normal. So while they were locking you down and locking us down, telling you can't go to work, crushing your economic health, making you desperate, making people anxious as hell and they knew they were lying. They knew it was all a scam. The lockdowns were a scam. The masks were a scam. The social distancing was a scam. They just made all that up. And you're supposed to trust science, meaning when people say trust science, they don't. What they mean is shut up and have blind faith in some asshole paid by Big Pharma to tell you what the science is. That's what they mean when they say trust science. They mean have blind faith. That's what you have in religion. You don't have that in science. Science only moves forward by questioning. And so anybody shaming you for questioning science is either a bought propagandist or a moron of the highest order. Sometimes both. So, and if you didn't question the vax, and if you don't question COVID policy, turns out you're the gullible moron. Turns out you're the gullible moron because they're always lying. I've always said from the beginning of this show, the biggest sources of lies and misinformation is the government. The next biggest source is corporate media. And then way down the list are YouTubers and randos on social media. Hey, come see us on tour. We'll be in Baltimore, San Francisco, Huntington Beach, Rosemont, and Chicago, Las Vegas, Salt Lake City, New York City, Pottstown, Pennsylvania, Stamford, Connecticut, and more, and St. Louis. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all our tickets for all our shows.